Nobody's a celebrity. Like, a celebrity is a human-made concept, okay? There is no such thing as celebrity in the animal kingdom. My cat is not gonna walk into, who's the most famous cat on the internet? She's not gonna walk into Maru's home and be like, oh my god, Maru, you are so famous, can I have your autograph? To her, it's another cat. So that goes for human beings as well. Like, every person is just flesh and blood like you and me, and they have to go to the toilet and eat and sleep, and they will die someday like everyone else. And they're also susceptible to the same diseases, same everything. Like, I'm not saying that you can't admire somebody's skill or someone's achievements in a certain area, right, or a certain industry that you like, but don't get that conflated with worshiping the person, right? You should never worship another human being. One of the best life hacks to remove yourself from the delusion that celebrity is even a thing. There's no such like natural definition or law that occurs in nature that says a celebrity is a different type of person than a normal person. The only difference between a celebrity and a normal person is that they have done something that has gotten them a lot of visibility, a lot of status, maybe monetary success. All of those things are man-made though. There is no differentiation in nature between who is a celebrity and who is just like a regular Joe working a regular job. Okay, so let me talk about my hack, right? The fact that I moved to a completely different country and a completely different culture at a young age, it opened my eyes to, I mean, I already knew this intrinsically, but it removed the illusion of what celebrity was or is for most people. And it was kind of like, I liken it to that scene in Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz where she meets that, what's his name? Like the green magician guy. It's like this apparition magician, like magical being talking to her about, oh, maybe he can predict the future or something. I forget. Oh my god. The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, like the wizard. Okay, the wizard. Everyone's like, oh my god, he's all powerful, this floating face in the sky. But then later on, she discovers that it's just an old man, like a middle-aged man, controlling this device behind a curtain. So the wizard is not this like huge, fantastical, all-knowing being that they thought he was. He's just a regular man that is using smoke and mirrors to make himself appear more important and more famous than he is. And so I realized that this applies to literally every single celebrity in the world, because a celebrity is only as famous and as important as their immediate locale. Even the worldwide, like, you think these people are the names that are recognized on a worldwide basis. First of all, that group of mega celebrity is a lot smaller. That's a very small percentage of most of who we would consider famous in the world. So I'm talking like Michael Jackson or Elvis or Beyonce. That level of celebrity is it's a very small group, and even those people, they're not as famous as you think they are. Beyonce, for example, you guys think that, I'm not taking anything away from like her work ethic and her talent and all of that. Beyonce, yes, if you said her name here or in Ghana or in India or in Japan, everyone knows who you're talking about, but it removes the wool from over your eyes. Going from like being born and raised in the US and not really having that much experience. I mean, I traveled to other countries already when I was younger, so I kind of already had a taste of this. I was privileged enough that my parents were able to take me on some overseas trips when I was younger. Also, I took a few trips throughout my childhood to visit my family, like my relatives in China. Anyone who is similar to me, where you are like not only lived in a certain state or a certain area for your entire life, anyone who's like an immigrant or somebody who has had to travel in some capacity back and forth between two countries. Between states doesn't count because that's still the same country, right? I'm talking about like you live in the US and then maybe you have relatives in a different country, right? Even if it's a third world country, even if they're economically less successful or like, you know, have less weight than America, it's still enough to shatter the illusion for you, because you realize that, like, I would be in the States and then everyone talks about like Michael Jackson, Beyonce, whoever, as if they are the most important person on planet Earth. But if I went back to China, then the only name that is really truly recognizable that I've noticed come up over and over again is Michael Jackson. A lot of people, if they've never been out of the States or North America, they probably think that oh, okay, so Beyonce is probably like on the same level as Michael Jackson. A lot of people compare her to him in terms of like her talent and her influence and her longevity in the music industry. But I can count on my hand the number of instances that I heard anyone in Japan bring up Beyonce voluntarily, like without me mentioning it. I'm not even joking. I've been in Japan for 12 years. I've never heard a single person bring up Beyonce other than, it was like 2 times, and both of them were people that I met through dance, at dance lessons, because they were using a Beyonce song. Okay, maybe 3 times, because then there was another friend. She didn't bring up Beyonce to me. I suggested a song from Beyonce to her to use in her dance routine. So that's like literally 3 times in a 10-year span that I've heard anybody mention the name Beyonce in Japan. I'm not saying that there's not, like, I'm sure there's super fans and obsessed fans of Beyonce here in Japan, but I'm saying that it's not like, it's nowhere near the level of reverence or of status that she has in the States. And the same thing happened with Oprah. I don't know if you guys saw, but there was like a program back in the day where I think it was Italy or somewhere in Europe that Oprah went, and then she wanted to look at this really expensive handbag in a boutique store, and then the store clerk they made this huge deal about it because the store clerk was obviously being condescending and dismissive of her because she didn't know who Oprah was, because nobody in Europe really cares about Oprah like that, right? This is not to take away from her billionaire status. This is not to say that she didn't achieve great milestones and break down barriers in her lifetime. But the simple truth of the matter is, when you move to a different paradigm like Europe, right, it decenters. If you are someone who grew up in the States and you've never been overseas before, when you actually go to a different country and you realize that, oh, these people have their own celebrities, like their own people that they idolize and look up to, and it never really matches. Very rarely is it somebody from America or a country that's different from theirs, right? Even the people who you think are like the top A-list, the most that they can get from most of the populace in a different country is a certain level of recognition. Like, oh yeah, everyone's heard that name before. Like, oh yeah, I know her. But it's very rare that you're gonna run into somebody who's like obsessed with Beyonce or obsessed and inspired so much by Oprah, a figure like Oprah, the way that somebody from the actual US or somebody who moved there would think. I don't know if this is making sense. For me, the reverse was true too. Like when I was younger, I was into the whole like punk rock aesthetic, and then I discovered Visual K, which I quickly became very obsessed with because it's like punk rock, but it's Japanese, it's sung in Japanese. I felt a much closer kinship to it than I felt with American or English language rock, and I also like the style a lot better. I mean, that's for sure, I think, indisputable that Visual K has the best style of all the rock genres, and you can find me on that one. But yeah, like I remember when I was in high school, YouTube just came out like my sophomore year, so it was very, very underground. Only a few avenues that you could find music and merchandise from these Visual K bands and artists, which were obviously based in Japan. So like at that time, YouTube was just getting started out, and I remember that I discovered a Duran Gray music video as I was watching something from Marilyn Manson. So I was watching a Marilyn Manson song, and then Duran Gray came up in my recommended. That's when I discovered Visual K was a thing, and I fell into the rabbit hole. And then I found all these different bands, not just Duran Gray, that I became obsessed with. And it was my dream to like go to Tokyo and meet them all. But then I came here and I realized that, oh, they're not really famous. Yes, I enjoyed their music. Yes, it was a great time. It was a great ride to go through that whole era. I mean, I haven't listened to Visual K in a long time, but if I went back, songs that I used to listen to on repeat when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, of course there's the nostalgia factor, but I also genuinely like the style, right? And a lot of the people in that genre are genuinely talented musicians. But when I came to Japan, I realized, okay, like the moment I landed in Tokyo, it was not a fantasy anymore to me. It was reality. Like, yeah, this is a real place and I'm gonna live here now. And these people are not famous. Yes, the fan base here is the real, true ground zero fan base, right? And they have their own mega fans, of course. Like some of those fangirls are really obsessive, but they're not even famous by mainstream standards in Japan. Do you know what I mean? And then when I grew up, like I realized also that a lot of all the music videos, like the cool visual elements that the different bands brought to the table, like every band had their own kind of fashion style as well. I really liked a lot of their the music videos, like the storytelling and the fashion video direction in them. But then I remember, like, I realized it hit me one day that I could make a visual kei music video too if I wanted to. Like, if I had the resources. Of course you need to get resources, you need to have money, you need to have connections and be able to hire production teams and stuff for that, like depending on the size of your band. But that's the thing though, if you really wanted to do that, like if I wanted to make a visual kei song and then shoot a video in that style, whatever level of budget I have, I'm sure I could make that happen. Just like the bands that I used to listen to, they were all of varying degrees of success and they had varying levels of resources available to them, but they just made the most of what they had. They were like super indies bands, which I actually liked the fact that they were not as polished as the ones that were assigned to major labels, because it had more of like a homegrown authentic feel to it. I liked the roughness even of how it sounded in their recordings. Like you could tell that they did their best, but it was not professionally mixed by like the best sound engineer. That was their charm, and that's why I liked their content. But then there were also bands that were signed to major labels that I liked as well, but they're not famous though. Like they're not untouchable the way that I thought they were. And so yeah, that's when I realized that there's no such thing as celebrity. And then one time, I'll tell you one time, so this video is all over the place. If you watch through this entire video though, you're a real one, and I think you can gain some mental Slytherin savage life hacks from me if you stay throughout the entire video. So like there was one visual kei concert that I went to. I don't know to this day. I'm just gonna interpret it the way that I interpret it. So it could have meant nothing, but I feel like it meant something. It was like a smaller indies band. They're probably not together anymore. I don't think that they ever really made it anywhere, but it was like they were good, you know. I remember thinking that, oh, that's a decent show, like they have some decent skill, everything checked out, right? Like people, the guitarist, the vocalist, everyone was like at a certain baseline that I consider this is a good band. They have good potential. I don't remember where it was. I think it was in Ikebukuro somewhere. It was one of those like classic indies live shows with maybe 50 to 100 people. The venue only holds like up to 100 people. And so after the show was over, the guitarist flicked his pick at me. So like it could have just been random, but I feel like that was a signal to me that, hey, I'm interested in you. And then I was kind of like, I was talking to my friend, so I was kind of standing like this talking to her. I felt his pick bounce off of my arm, and I just kind of looked at it, and then I looked at him, and then I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I just continued talking to my friend, because I don't know what you are expecting. I feel like it meant something. It could have meant nothing, but I feel like he does that maybe with girls that he wants to like talk to later, or it's a signal that, hey, we should link up later. But I was not impressed because you're not famous. Like anyone could. I respect the fact that you know, got this band together and that you guys practice and you put in your blood, sweat, and tears for your art, but like that don't impress me much. Who sang that song? Shania Twain? But yeah, I was like, what the hell? Like, what the hell was that? Anyone can do what you do. Like, anyone can rent a room in that hallway that all of the visual kei bands used for their music videos with the black and white checkered floor. Like, I've been there before. Okay, I forget exactly which neighborhood it is, but like, it's a venue. Like, you can rent these places. There are studios that are made specifically for people to shoot visual kei music videos in. Like, they're not famous. And so the same thing goes for any celebrity in your country as well. And I think especially people from the US need to hear this. People from the US, if you're trying to manifest a celebrity, if you can get to this mental breakthrough, everything will just become so clear to you, because you're gonna realize the true situation of things, which is that it's all a farce. Okay. And I also when I was watching the Elvis movie, you know, the one with Austin Butler, they showed clips in the beginning of the movie of, it was like a montage of real concert footage of actual Elvis, not Austin Butler as Elvis, but actual footage of Elvis doing his shows in Las Vegas. And I felt it then too, because I was noticing that, because Elvis has a dedicated following here in Japan, right? And most of them tend to be older from that generation. And so I saw that, oh, okay, there was a lot of like old middle-aged guys, nothing wrong with that, but there was a lot of a certain type of demographic of Japanese guys who were middle-aged and older who went to see the Elvis movie. I saw them in the theater with me, and I was thinking to myself, like, okay, from their perspective, this probably looks like so fantastical, right? Because, you know, Elvis did his residency for many years in that Vegas hotel. I've actually never been to Vegas. I think my mom went once with my grandparents when they came to visit. That was when I was little, so I was not allowed to go, or I should say they just didn't take me. Like, I don't remember. Maybe I stayed with my dad, and maybe my mom just took her parents there. But anyway, so I've never been to Vegas. I mean, I wouldn't mind going one day, but to me, any place in the United States is like not that exciting, because I was born and raised in the United States. It's not the way that I think of Tokyo, right? Or the way that I think of Paris or any other like foreign city. It's always more exciting when it's a foreign city that's not the place that you grew up in, because it's like something that you never experienced before. But America is like, even the hot spots for where the celebrities or where the famous people congregate, I don't see that as exciting. I just see that as, oh, that's like home. That's like in my backyard, because I'm American. Like, I was born and raised in America. So even if you talk about like LA or Hollywood Hills, I mean, Hollywood Hills, what is that? It looks like just a plot of land with that really old dilapidated Hollywood sign, and they showed that sign in the Elvis movie too, by the way. But yeah, like, what is that? It's just like this artificially created plot of land where people just happen to decide that they're gonna shoot all of these Hollywood movies there. I'm not saying that I could just walk up there and that, you know, I'm sure no one would care and nobody would recognize or roll out the red carpet for me. I would be treated like a nobody. But I don't have this built up idea of that place as like a dreamland, right? I don't see any place in the world like that, because I've traveled to enough places to know that that's just not the case. Like, people don't live in, there is no such thing as fantasy cities or fantasy lands. It's all just planet Earth, like real people living their real lives. And so it's funny because like when I was watching the Elvis movie, I was trying to put myself in the shoes of, okay, if I was like a Japanese old school fan of Elvis, let's say that I never really traveled out of the country, and Elvis also never traveled out of the country. I didn't know that before I watched the movie, but his manager did some shady stuff. Maybe he was on some government hit list or something. So it would have raised an alarm if his manager went out of the country, right? Because then people would check his passport, and then, you know. But so because of that, his manager kept him from touring outside as well by trying to convince him that it's not safe to go outside of the States. And so that's why Elvis never, even though he had a lot of fans worldwide, he never went anywhere except for Germany, which is where he was stationed for his military service. So I think Germany is the only place that he went. And then like Elvis always said that he wanted to travel or tour around the world, but his manager never let him. So unless they went to the US to go see him, there's no way that mega fans situated in Japan at the time would have been able to see him live, right? So I'm thinking like a lot of the people in the audience, or like who were the OG fans of Elvis who were watching the movie with me, maybe some of them were able to travel to the US to see him, but I feel like a lot of them probably never saw him in person. So their only relationship and idea of this, you know, mega superstar, rock star that Elvis was, is like, it's even more, I feel like I'm not explaining this well, like it's even more heightened than somebody who was a mega fan in the US, right? Because at least, even though like it would have been a huge deal for them to see him as well, at least they're in the knowing that they are in the same country, like in the same plot of land as Elvis, it makes it more accessible and more real to them, right? Whereas if you're like in Japan and you're a fan of Elvis and you have no way of seeing him because he never even had a chance to tour in Japan, you put him more on a pedestal because it's more unreachable than even like the most famous singer in Japan at the time, if that makes sense. And so I was just thinking, when I was watching all of the footage in the beginning of Elvis at his Vegas shows, they were showing like, you know, Baz Luhrmann, he has this very, you combine the already like glittering gaudy imagery of Elvis with Baz Luhrmann's directing style, and it's just this really, you don't even have time to think, right? Because it's just showing all of the lights and the bustling energy of Las Vegas. And I was just thinking like, I wonder how the Japanese people in the audience who maybe have never been to the States before, or they've never been to Las Vegas, like I wonder how they see that. They probably think that, wow, this is a completely new world, this is like the highest level of fame that you can imagine. But to me, that's just Las Vegas though. Like, that's not a big deal. Anyone can go to Las Vegas, and it's not even, I mean, this is a movie, so obviously they're going to showcase the most fantastical aspects of it, and of course the actual footage is pretty spectacular, but it's, to me, it's still just like a backyard feeling, right? Las Vegas, what's the big deal about that? And so it was just funny to me because this is the mind hack that you get to have when you travel to other places. It is the story of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. Like when you travel and then you go to big places, sometimes you might, you might have your initial excitement of meeting one or two people that you idolized, but you'll realize very quickly that it's all just an illusion and nobody's actually famous. And also, one of my favorite mantras, like if you don't want to listen to all of that babble that I just that I just spewed out, you can just use one of my favorite mantras. Okay, if I was excited about meeting somebody, which like I'm not even okay, I'm trying to think of somebody like Woo Hyuk. Let's ignore his abuse thing. Like let's just say that I have a chance to meet Woo Hyuk. Like I'm not even excited about that anymore. The only reason that I would be excited is if I knew that it might be able to help like my social media brand, you know? Yeah, if the opportunity arises, I would go because it would be good for business. But in terms of like my emotional investment, I'm my attitude is like, okay, they get to meet me though. Like, why is it that I get to meet them? Maybe they get to meet me. Like, that's literally my attitude when it comes to celebrities, because I'm a celebrity too. I am the celebrity of my own life. So I know that this is not the answer you wanted to hear. Like, you wanted to hear actual tips on how to meet and how to date your favorite celebrity, but like I'm telling you, this is the actual answer though. This is the ultimate answer, is to realize that it's all an illusion and that you should not, like, why do you want to date somebody that you don't know? That's not the mindset of somebody who is confident and assured with themselves and committed to living their best life. If they turn out to be as great as I'm projecting onto them, that would be great. But then what? If we don't get together, or if they don't date me, even if there's a 1 in a million chance that I'm in this room with a celebrity that I have a crush on, and then if they start acting weird or whatever, then I'll be like, ew, you're weird. You know, I won't be like, oh my God, how can I get them to like me? You know, how can I manifest a relationship with this person? I think also where a lot of people get tripped up, and maybe I don't think this is vocalized enough in manifestation videos, but the work is not learning the newest manifestation technique or like getting into the right vibration so that the celebrity that you like and you desperately want to date will just reach out to you out of the blue and profess their love and, you know, ask that you marry them. The work is actually to shift into the state of a person, the identity of a person that is so in love and committed to themselves that, first of all, you will not settle for anyone unless they are naturally a match for you, like unless they see the value in you. It's not your job to work hard to convince anyone that they deserve you, right? Like, you're busy over here just working on yourself, polishing yourself, and making sure that you are the best version that you can be. And then whoever is also in the same level as you in terms of like their consciousness and their self-confidence, their self-concept, they will naturally find you somehow, and they will be drawn to you because of the energy that you're emanating of self-assuredness. And so if it happens to be like somebody who's famous, you naturally would get turned off by that person if they demonstrated to you that they were not what you built them up to be in your head, right? And this is the thing that people actually don't want to give up, because they think that, no, but I just want to, you know, I want to get my manifestation though. You're supposed to be able to manifest whatever you want. That's what I've been taught. So I just want you to give me the advice and the techniques to make that happen. But that's not the actual work though. The actual work is to become the person who doesn't need that, right? Like, to become the type of person who doesn't need validation. Like, okay, if it so happens that you meet like your perfect person, or, you know, they look exactly like the celebrity that you had a crush on when you were little, or they are the celebrity and they turn out to be as ideal as you imagined them, that's great. That's not impossible. But if they don't turn out to, if they fall short of your expectations, which chances are they will if you have any expectations at all, which is why you should not have expectations of people to begin with. But like, if they fall short, then you should also, if you were in the healthy mindset of that kind of person who could attract a celebrity in the first place, then you would also have the mindset to reject them and drop them at a moment's notice, the moment that you see a red flag. You know what I mean? And I think that part is the part that's scary to some people, because then you feel like, well, no, but like, I don't want to give up this fantasy. You are addicted to the fantasy. You're not addicted to the actual work. that it would take to become that kind of badass person who attracts those people. So anyway, I think I think that this is a good place to stop for today. And I really want to eat dinner, but like I'm not hungry. What is up with that? Okay, maybe I'll go get my pumpkin spice latte.